Hi, my name is Sam. Welcome to this After Effects basic tutorials. Here I'm going to walk you through this. So this is what we're going to look at. I'll test this. All right. Things in nature do not move quite consistently. Generally, when you animate in After Effects, the object moves from one point to the next. Looking at these objects, they all start from the same beginning. They all end at the same time. However, you'd realize that some of them initially move very fast and slow down at the end. The very last one is the normal one, so it's moving just consistently. So the yellow one here is the normal one, so there is no variation in the speed. But when you have a car moving, initially when it starts off, it slows, it's very slow, and then it will accelerate whilst it moves. If a car is coming to a stop, it will be accelerating and then slow down at the very end. So things basically, if you drop something from, let's say, top from the ceiling and it's falling down, the same way the rate at which it drops is not going to be the same. So when you animate, you want to take into consideration what you're animating. How fast is the object going to move at one point, and how slow will it move at one point? To be able to help you do this, we have something we refer to as easy ease in and ease out. So we want to have a look at that. To do so, I'm going to go to a composition, a new composition. I'm actually going to use only 5 seconds, but for the purposes of this recording, I'll start with 10 seconds. We'll trim that off just to add that aspect to it. And here I'll call this ease. Okay, so ease, and I'm going to choose a black background, and I'll click on OK. I'm using D1 DV PAL widescreen. It doesn't really matter at this point, so I'll click OK. Right click and new solid, and I'll go for so let me call it easy ease. Okay, so that will be my first one, 100 by 100 pixels, and I'll click on OK. I'll move this to the very top here. I'm going to press P for position and set a keyframe for position. Move this to 5 seconds in the timeline, and I'm going to move this. Whilst I'm dragging this, I'll hold down on shift. Start dragging before you hold shift. Okay, so I'll move this not off the stage but just to the end here. And whilst the CTI is here, I'll press N for nanny. So this would come up down here. And I'm going to go and test it. So this is the normal thing that's running the normal speed. All right. We want to make a copy of this animation, but watch this. We need to be able to move all the keyframes. In this case, only 2. If you had more, this is the same way you're going to do it. But if I leave the CTI anywhere in the middle where you don't have keyframes, and I'm going to, let's say, select the keyframes. First, you need to select the keyframes. So when I select and I try to use the shift and down arrow key to move it, okay, realize that the 2 keyframes here are not moving, and a new keyframe is created. It actually distorts our animation. Okay, this is not exactly what we want. What I want is to be able to move my keyframes and everything down. Before I do that, I'll duplicate this this particular layer. To make a duplicate, Command D. All right, and I'll press U to display the keyframes for the top one. I'm going to call this. So I'll change the one below. Okay, I'll change the one here to easy ease in. Okay, and so we have easy ease in, and I'm going to make a duplicate of that again. Command D, and I'll call the one below easy ease out. Okay, so that's out, and this became 2, so just easy ease in. All right, so here I have 3 of them, and we want to be able to place all these on in separate positions. I'm going to go and select this again and just make one more copy. Command D to make a duplicate, and I'm going to call this one original. Okay, original. So I'll call that the original, and I'll put the original one just right below. I'll select the layer, Command A to select all of them, and I'll press P and P again to display their position properties so I can see all the keyframes. Now I need to be able to move each of them and change the color. So just to space them, again, to be able to move the whole animation, you need to have to be able to select the keyframes. To select the keyframes, I'll come in here to the position keyframe, and I am not going to click on a stopwatch. Anytime you click on a stopwatch, you delete every keyframe in the timeline. I'm going to click on the word position, so that will by itself select every keyframe that you have in here, so you see these two. All right, so I'm going to go and move my CTI either to one of the keyframes here. You have to be very careful if it's sitting right here and let's say it's just one frame short, this will not work. So you can either use the keyframe navigator, this one, to click on that to make sure it goes exactly to a particular keyframe, either the beginning or the one at the end, whichever one, or in between if there were one, that would work for you. So once this is there and I've selected the two keyframes, I can now move the shift key, okay, and that moves this particular one down. So I want the original to come real down here, just down, maybe one more, and down. Okay, so I have moved that. Let me just change the color of the solid. To change the color of a solid, you select the solid, go to layer, it's a layer, so you go to layer, solid settings, and you change to any color that you want, and you click on new. Well, I'm done with the bottom one. I want to be able to move the Easy Ease one, so that comes down. Again, make sure your CTI is sitting exactly on a keyframe, and click on the word position to select the keyframe. Now I'll hold down shift and move this down, so moving the arrow key down, okay. And so that's also done. I'll change the color, so solid settings, and I'll change the color to yellow or orange here. I'll go ahead for Easy Ease and click on the word position. Make sure the CTI is in the beginning, and I'll move this down. I'm creating this space. I probably might get one there, maybe not, but if there's a need, I would probably utilize that. Okay, so I'll keep this right here, and at this point, all four of them are just moving constant. Okay, they're just constant. We've not done anything to them. Normally, when you animate the first time, this is how things are going to move. But the point is, things don't always move the same at the same speed. They may vary depending on what you're creating. So I'll pause this here, and I'm going to go into change this layer. I will change the color. So layer solid settings, and I'll change it to let's say a blue. All right, so that's done. Now let's go ahead and look at the very first one. So we'll display, make sure you have the keyframe, and I'm going to select the last keyframe, and I'll right click on it. Okay, let me keep the CTI somewhere at the end, so you see the changes that, okay, I'll right click on this and I'll go to keyframe assistant, and I'll apply Easy Ease to it. Realize that almost immediately this seemed to have shifted to the front. If you had a CTI in the beginning, you didn't see anything. Similarly, if you had it at the end, you will not see that much difference. But if it's somewhere in the middle, you see that it seemed to have shifted. And let's see what's going on. When I drag this, initially the Easy Ease one, that's a green one, begins to move much faster, and then slow down at the end so that these other ones are able to catch up with it. So at the end, it moves barely. It barely moves, so very little movement in that place. And maybe let's have a study of this disk to help us understand a little bit what's going on. So this is a normal disk, sort of a diamond shape for the keyframe. When we make it an Easy Ease, then it's got this here. I'm looking at the one on the right here, kind of as two things happening. Just imagine you have a split in between, okay, a horizontal, a vertical line in between this, that way. So you look at the one here, the end seems to look like an arrow moving to the right. Okay, so anytime I tend to see this, it tells me that the animation on the left side of it moves very fast. Okay, and so from this point on, we don't have any animation happening on the right side. But if we did had an animation on the right side, once this is pointing to the left, it means this is going to start slow, and then move onward. All right, let's test that from the other options we're going to go for. So we go for easy ease in, and I'll press U to display the keyframes again, and I'm going to the very end, and I'll select this, and I'll right click on it. Let's keep this somewhere in the middle and see if there's a change happen. Right click on this keyframe assistant and easy ease in. Well, this also moves to the front. It moves ahead a little bit. Why did it move? Okay, let's drag the CTI and see what's going on. From here, when we move this, we would realize that the easy ease and easy ease in both are doing the same thing, exactly the same thing. There's no difference whatsoever. Well, then why did they put it in After Effects? Well, these would matter if we begin to have an animation that continues. In this particular case, realize that the diamond shape has changed, but on the left side of it, as I told you earlier on, we split this into two. The left side has got this sort of arrow inside it, sort of dent in it, okay, on the right, meaning that the animation is going to start very fast and slow down at the end. However, when it gets to the right side, there is no animation because nothing will happen, because you see that disc here looks very much like the normal one. So let's say half of this, nothing on the right side. Okay, so if we had an animation here, this will begin to move just consistently again. So that will not work in any for let's say on the right side. But at this point, everything is working the same. The difference would have come if there were something for the top layer, that's the easy ease layer. Let's go to the next one, which is the easy ease out. We'll press U to display the keyframes that are set, and I'm going to select this here. Keep your eye on the scene, and I'll right click on it, and I'm going to choose keyframe assistant and easy ease out. When I choose easy ease out, that's the yellow one, nothing really happened. And let's scrub the timeline and see. I'll begin to click and drag, and so it is currently the red one is a normal one, so it moves just like the red one. Why then do we need it? Because realize that the disc, as I told you, on the left side is the normal thing. So from this one looks very much like what we have on the left side. So the left side is a normal one, so nothing happens. Something might happen if you have an animation on the right side. So in this case, the arrow you have here that dents this is looking inward. So that means it's going to slow down from the beginning, and then at the end would accelerate, but we don't have any animation there. Okay, so in this case, it is not the best idea to apply this to this because it's quite useless. If there were a keyframe on the right side, then that's fine. I'm going to step back on this, Command Z to step back, and instead of applying it to this, I'm going to apply it to the one in the beginning. So I'll right click on it, and I'll go to keyframe assistant, and I'll go easy ease out. Now check this out. You see that this has dropped from its position here and it's gone back. So let's slide this. We drag this in the timeline, and you see that the yellow one, which is the easy ease, it's now slowing down to start with. And when it gets somewhere in the beginning, it begins to gather momentum and moves a little faster and catches up at the very end. So this is what you're going to use to be able to help you to create your animation. In fact, you can make changes in the graph editor, but I'll go in there with another tutorial, not to make this too long, and I'll test this. So when you test this, you realize that everything is sort of moving differently. The red one is a consistent one. The orange one is the easy ease, slows down, easy ease out, slows down in the beginning and catches up at the very end. So depending on what you're animating, you probably may want to consider what you use. And so the last thing I'm going to touch on is how to trim comps. This is a common question that students ask a lot. I have a composition, currently it spans 10 seconds. How can I trim this to, let's say, 5 seconds or let's say 4 seconds? Okay, I did my animation for only 5 seconds, so I don't need the other 5 seconds on the right side. So the first thing I'll do is make sure I place my CTI, let's say, in 5 seconds. Okay, and that's where that is. I can check it is because we have 5 seconds down here. All right, now I'm going to go and press N. When, depending on where this might be, when you press N for Nani, this comes to wherever your CTR is sitting. And I can right click here on the work area. Okay, on this bar here, this is the work area. I can right click on it and choose trim comp to work area, and it's going to trim this comp to only 5 seconds. All right, let me step back again and show you an alternative. So instead of having to do this, if let's say this is not so comfortable for you to do, another way is just to right click somewhere here in the blank space composition settings, and instead of 10 seconds here, you would go and change that to 5 seconds, so 500, and that will trim your work to the necessary length. You can also go to composition and composition settings and change it right from here. All right, so that ends this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and hopefully this was quite useful to you.